Welcome, everyone. You've reached Grandma Mo, and we're covering the WNBA. And these are games played on Sunday, the 24th of August. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty and end of the season, and we had the Indiana Fever going into Minnesota's Target Center and taking on the first-place Minnesota Lynx. So, unfortunately for Indiana, Napheesa Collier came back. And anyone doubting that Napheesa Collier's not the MVP, do you realize even as much as A'ja Wilson has been scoring, she still hasn't eclipsed her in points per game? That tells you how great Collier's whole first 3 quarters of the season was. She was out for 2.5, 3 weeks. And then she comes back first game and scores 32. She's a 40, 50, 90 player. Or 50, 40, sorry. 50% from the floor, 40% from three, and 90% from the free throw line. And she's leading the league in scoring and hasn't played in 3 weeks. Or 2.5 weeks, whatever it was. Beginning of August. And here it is, almost the end. I think it's 3 weeks. It's amazing how many people have recency bias. And A'ja Wilson's great. No, taking nothing away from her, but unless Collier collapses over the next 2 weeks. I mean, and the Aces are playing well, but they're not. They weren't playing well in the beginning of the season. Everybody forgets that. You know, there were some bad games there. Look at Collier. I think the only not great game she had was the Commissioner's Cup. Other than that, she's played great every single game. I haven't looked at her stats game by game, but how go 3 weeks without playing and still lead the league in scoring? That says something. So, the Lynx get the win, 97-84. They outscore the Fever in every quarter except for the first quarter. Indiana actually came out pretty strong, and they scored 30 points in the first quarter. That was great for them. They were playing well. They outscored them 30-25, but the Lynx came right back and outscored them 27-15 in the second. And then they never relinquished it from that point out. Third quarter, 25-21, and then the fourth quarter, 20-18. So, you know, the Fever have been playing with a lot of players that they're signed into 7-day contracts and all that kind of stuff. But they're not the only team doing that. There's teams doing the same thing out there. So they are not alone in that endeavor. So you had the Fever shot 47%. They shot 44% from three, which both of those are very good. But when you're going against Minnesota and they shoot 57% from the floor and 57% from three, you're in trouble. They missed one free throw, 92%. They were 57.1 from both the floor, regular 2-point shooting, and from three. They were 12 for 21. Kayla McBride was 3 for 3. Courtney Williams was 3 for 5. Collier was 2 for 3. Carlton was 1 for 2. Heidemann was 1 for 4. Carrington hit 1. Kundalikova was 1 for 2. They were hitting their shots. And, you know, Minnesota is not going to get beat if you're shooting 57%. They'll beat anybody shooting that. I mean, they're going to beat anybody with that kind of stat line. So Indiana had more points in the paint. Boston had a pretty good game. Let's see how many points she scored. She had 14 points. That's interesting. She seemed like she scored more than that. But there was points in time where she didn't score at all, like in the second and third quarter. She kind of came alive she started out good, and then she came alive in the fourth, scoring. So that's probably why. She had 5 assists and 7 rebounds. She was 7 for 12 overall. So she was her and Howard were responsible for points in the paint. And they got some layups from their guards and stuff. So they outscored them 46-36. Second chance points were even. Turnovers were even. Indiana actually scored a lot more points off turnovers than Minnesota did, 24-13. So that was a big stat. So looking at the players, Lexi Hull had 6 points. Wow, that's interesting. She seemed like she scored more points than that. She was 2 for 6 from 3 and 2 for 10 overall. 4 assists, 1 rebound, 1 turnover, and 2 steals. Natasha Howard had 10 points. She had 8 rebounds. She was 4 for 6 overall, and she had 3 assists. Boston, 14 points, like I said. Kelsey Mitchell, another good game for Kelsey. 26 points. She had 2 turnovers, 2 assists, a rebound. She was 10 for 11 from the free throw line, 2 for 3 from 3, and 7 for 12 overall. So good game for Mitchell. Odyssey Sims, she hit a 3-point shot. Shea Petty, she is coming in and playing really well for them, for the Fever. 16 points for her. To come off the street and just get in a game and score, she hit 3 3-pointers the last game. And this time she also hit 3 3-pointers. And a couple of other hoops. And she also had an assist. 16 points. So good game for Shea. That's wonderful. Dantas didn't score. Ariel Powers came in. She looked pretty. She was picked up by the Valkyries earlier in the season off the street, but they had to waive her because we had people coming back. I think we picked her up when the Eurobasket thing was going on. So she was briefly there. But the Fever picked her up. She contributed. She had 5 points. She had 3 assists and 5 rebounds and 3 turnovers. And one of those was just, I don't know you, I've never played with you, and here, I think you're going this way and you're going that way. That happens. That's why it's so hard to do 7-day contracts with players, because they're not used to playing with each other. So Turner's been playing more. She had 2 points and a rebound, and then Timpson came in the last minute and a half, and she hit a hoop. So then looking at Minnesota, Collier leading the pack to 32 points, 9 rebounds. She had 2 assists, 3 turnovers, 2 steals. She was 8 for 9 from the foul line and 11 for 16 overall and 2 for 3 from 3. Just fantastic game. Fantastic. Shooting over 50% from the floor, over 40% from 3, and she was a hair under 90%. She missed 1 free throw. Carlton had 7 points, 4 rebounds. She was 3 for 5 overall. Alana Smith, rough game for her. She was getting knocked. I mean, there was a lot of contact with all the picks that were being set, and she was on the floor a lot. I mean, there were other players that were on the floor a lot, but she was on the floor every time you turn around. So she had 8 points. She had 4 turnovers, 2 assists, 3 rebounds. She was 3 for 7. Kayla McBride was 100%. She didn't miss a shot. 13 points. 4 for 4 overall, 3 for 3 from 3, and 2 for 2 at the line. She had 4 assists and 4 rebounds, a turnover, and a steal. Courtney Williams, 14 points and 10 assists. So she was the only one with a double-double. She was 5 for 11. The last 2 games she was shooting bad, and this game she picked it up again. 3 for 5 from 3, and then she hit a foul shot. Heidemann had 5 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. Dejanay Carrington, 5 points. She had a turnover and a rebound. Shepard came off that triple-double, and this game she didn't score at all. She had 3 assists and a rebound. But she only played 9 minutes. Kundalikova, she had a good game. She was 6 for 7 overall. 13 points. She had a turnover, 2 assists, and 3 rebounds. And that rounds it out. There's 3 players that came in the last minute, but they didn't score. So Minnesota is now 30-7 and solidly in first place. They're 6 games ahead of Atlanta, who is next. And Indiana now drops to 19-18, and they are tied with Seattle and the Valkyries, and then the Sparks are right behind them. They just have less games played. So that means the Sparks are going to be playing 2 more games than everybody else in this short period. We'll see how that affects them. And, there's teams, you basically have Indiana, the Valkyries, the Storm, and the Sparks, 4 teams vying for 3 spots. And the Sparks and the Fever have a rough schedule. They're playing some top teams, and it's going to be really hard for both. Well, only one is going to drop out unless somebody really starts losing, and then the Mystics have a chance. But the Mystics they have 22 losses, so with this many games left, the Mystics would have to win out. And I don't know what their schedule looks like, but I doubt they're going to do that. So it's basically who wins the battle between those 4 teams. It'll be interesting. It's going to be exciting. And then, the teams at the top under Minnesota, you have Atlanta, Vegas, New York, and Phoenix. And they're all separated by 1 or 2 games. And they're all playing each other. So, going to be really exciting next 2 weeks till September 11th. I guess that's 3 weeks. So, it's going to be really exciting. It's going to really interesting to see who finishes strong, especially with all the injuries. And there are some teams that are just decimated by injuries, and Indiana's one of them. So it just matters who's going to pick up the slack and, next woman up. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.